The crypto year 2023 is coming to an end. In about 3 days and a couple of hours, we are going to form a yearly candle on almost everything that has a chart on TradingView. And it was a good year. Bitcoin found its bottom, Bitcoin rallied hard, and so did most of the altcoins. But now the big question is, with a look to 2024-25, where we are expecting, more likely than not, a mega bull run for Bitcoin and a massive run for the altcoins, how can we survive as shrimps in this ocean full of whales and sharks, and how can we make the best returns out of this market? That is what we are going to discuss right now. Hey everyone, it's the Patient Hodler coming at you with another video, and in this one we are going to talk strategy. Strategy as a shrimp. And if we are very honest with ourselves, then we have to acknowledge that we're more likely than not all shrimps in this crypto market, unless some of you that are watching this have millions and millions of dollars, because most of us are playing with $500, $1,000, $10,000 or $20,000, maybe $50,000 to $100,000, but still, then more likely than not, we are shrimps. Unless you are buying with $100,000, couple of Bitcoin, then you are probably somewhere in the goldfish range of what is out there in the market. What I mean by that is that we have to align our strategy with what we want out of this market and what we can expect from the market as a whole. Now, for that purpose, let's look at some very fundamental things in the beginning. First of all, the multi-boost factor that I have already discussed on this channel. The multi-boost factor, for everyone who has missed it, is the quad factor that is coming for the crypto market in the next year. All of these things are very likely happening next year, and they either affect Bitcoin directly or the global liquidity that affects crypto prices indirectly. So let's look at them for 1 minute. Bitcoin ETF. According to Mike Novogratz, Bitcoin ETFs are going to be approved between somewhere the 8th to the 10th of January. So that is very, very soon. This is less than 2 weeks out from the making of this video. So Bitcoin ETFs are going to open the floodgates and are, according to Cathie Wood, a green light for institutional investors to pour more money into the crypto market. So we have to see that as a huge catalyst that is highly expected and somewhat priced in. We have the Bitcoin halving that is going almost a couple of weeks after that potential approval to cut the Bitcoin supply in half, meaning that at that specific time, somewhere around 110 to 120 days from here, somewhere to the end of April, the Bitcoin supply is going to be cut in half. And that means that even though the miners are going to increase their hash powers, the power for the mining equipment and so on, they're probably not going to be able to deliver the same amount of Bitcoin into the market than they have been before. Meaning that there will be a supply shock somewhere at some point. Maybe not immediately at the halving, but somewhere around the halving. Also, this is going to be factored in and priced in to some extent. Then we have global rate cuts in front of us, meaning that the Fed and other central banks are going to lower the interest rate that they have been hiking throughout the last 2 years. That usually comes along with pumping money into the market, and that in itself means that people will have, over time, during the next 2 years, more money to pump into crypto and other investments. So all markets will benefit from these rate cuts at some point. But keep in mind, we said before that there could be a crash aligned with these rate cuts, because usually there is some incident happening that leads to the global central banks to cutting rates. The most important one is to look at is the Fed. And then we have US election year spending, meaning that usually in the year before the elections, the current government is spending money massively so that people feel that the government did something that benefits them so that they get elected again. So every government tries to spend as much money as possible, and that also feeds into the market and into the available liquidity. that is a common practice, that you do something right before the re-elections or the elections to make yourself look better. But enough with that. Let's look a little bit more at the markets. So first of all, here we have these approvals, the pending approvals that are amended at the moment for the Bitcoin asset managers. For example, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is seeking to convert their Bitcoin Trust into a Bitcoin spot ETF. Now, this is the reason why it's probably happening in January and not in March, even though the SEC could extend it into March, because there's a pending lawsuit and the SEC would get in trouble with Grayscale, but not with the other ones. So Grayscale ultimately is the reason. And as we can see here in this hashtags post, also hashtags has been sitting with the SEC once again on December 26th to amend and to discuss more steps for the Bitcoin spot ETF approval. Also here we see, as I mentioned before, that the SEC approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs will be a green light for institutions that have been holding back. So that all will lead to more liquidity into the market. And we can see it, the whales that I mentioned that also find themselves on our thumbnail, they are loading up on Bitcoin right now. In anticipation of that event. So we see here, for example, this guy, which is more likely than not a big institution, a big player, is buying 1.2 billion in one day of Bitcoin, right? Or here we see it, here is Mr. 4MM who buys, 8,000 Bitcoin in one day, despite him selling a little bit, which we can see here in this red box. He has bought couple of hundred to 1,000 Bitcoin per day, almost at every price. So he took a little bit of profit at 43,000, but he has been reaccumulating at 42,000. So a big deal if you consider these Bitcoin prices. Now back to our question, as shrimps, how we should behave in the market. And we see these guys buying Bitcoin, but the question is, if you only have $500 or $1,000, is buying Bitcoin really the best choice? Now, let's take a quick look at the many lines that I have here and Bitcoin. What does that mean for us? So Bitcoin has done pretty well, right? If you have caught the bottom, then you are up like 150% to where we are right now. In the best case, if you have hit the absolute bottom, you have been up around 200%, so you have 3x'd your money. But for $500 investment, 3x'ing your money is $1,500. The question is that a life-changing return? And even if you are not in the market yet and you're coming into the market right now, or you have extra capital, the question is, will a potential, let's say a 120,000 or something Bitcoin really, will that change your life? That is one of the questions that you have to ask yourself. And at this point, we have to see here the strategy, and the strategy that has been told by different people on YouTube. So there are YouTubers that themselves have turned into whales over time and that have a little bit different perspective to the markets than a shrimp with $1,000 available, right? So for example, take Warren Buffett, take a Mike Novogratz, or take whoever else you want with 1 million or 10 million or 100 million US dollars. For example, Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway, he can take $100 billion and move it into something that gives him a couple of percent returns on his investment, like government bonds, right? If you move $100 into government bonds and you get 3% out of it, you have $103 after the period of time. But if you do that with 100 billion and you get 3 billion out of it, no one would say no to 3 extra billion, right? So it all comes down to how much you have at hand and how much return you really need to make a life-changing return. The same accounts for someone that sits on 1 or 2 million US dollars and has invested that into Bitcoin. From 2 million to 4 million, 2 extra million is pretty good, but for $100 investment to $200 investment, an extra $100, for example, that doesn't really change most people's life. So you get where I'm coming from. So as a shrimp, you have to do different things than as a whale, at least in my opinion, right? So the strategies that we always see is, hey, here's a Bitcoin portfolio with 80% Bitcoin, 10% Ethereum, and the rest in altcoins, right? But that means that 80% of your Bitcoin is moving exactly at that slow rate. And if you do not have 2 million in that, then the big question is where you are getting at with this, right? So the way could be the altcoin market, right? And as we can see here, this is all the altcoin market. And the altcoin market is, even though that we have an overall return from in the last bull run, as you can see here, we have in the last bull run from the breakout, which would be the white lines also here, up to this point, we have 20x. So let's say we are doing somewhat of a similar move from where we are right now. We would be looking at from where we are to where we could be going at a rough 10x, roughly a 10x. So a 10x on $100 investment is $1,000. It's not $200, it's $1,000. That means if we would buy something like an altcoin ETF that just replicates the entire altcoin market, and we would assume that the altcoin market goes to 2.2 trillion, which in my opinion is not unrealistic, then you could be looking at somewhat of a return. But there's probably a little bit better than that, because also in this others chart, in this altcoin chart, there's everything inside except the top 5 coins and except stable coins. So there are also coins inside that you would never buy if you just do a little bit of a research. So technically, with doing some research and with looking at market caps, we could potentially improve those returns, right? So the big question now is, which altcoins should we look at, right? And now, if we look at something like livecoinwatch.com, it's absolutely free. I'm not sponsored by this or anything. I just use it as a comparison. We see that Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have pretty big market caps, right? Bitcoin sits at the $800 billion market cap and Ethereum at 280 billion. So for those to double, there's a lot of money necessary. So another 800 billion need to flow into this market cap to get our price to $84,000. So that means that if you put 100 or let's say $1,000 into Bitcoin, you need another 800 billion to come into the market, into Bitcoin, not into the market, but into Bitcoin, to get $2,000 in the end out of it. Your $1,000 investment and $1,000 profit, and then deducting the tax, right? So depending on in which country you are living, you get taxed on that, and then you lose another, I don't know how much, 20%, so you're left with $800. So that cannot be the deal. Let's say for Ethereum to double, it's not that much money, but still it's insanely big, right? The market cap, 280 billion, also a lot of financial power needed to move this price, but it has bigger chances to go to $1 trillion, for example, and do a solid 4x from here, right? And go to $10,000 or somewhere slightly below. But what else do we have? We cannot buy Tether because it's a stable coin, right? So here we have a little bit of other coins. And here is now where it's dangerous as a shrimp. Because as a shrimp, you see a lot of YouTubers that are bullish on Solana, XRP, BNB, ADA, and stuff like that. But also these coins have really big market caps. And a lot of people make it believe that it is easy for Solana to go to a $300 billion market cap, which by the way would only be like a 6x. Because Solana is sitting just below $50 billion market cap. For math's sake, let's say 5x on Solana would bring it, first of all, to $500 per coin, and secondly, it would bring it to the same size as Ethereum. Obviously, Ethereum also will move, so Ethereum will stay ahead. But just do the math, right? It's important as a shrimp, because a 5x is also probably not what you want if an average purchase across the entire altcoin market would yield a 8 to 10x as we have seen before in the chart. So the big question is, what has a lower market cap and is capable of coming up to a specific market cap? So probably you want to start looking at things that are sitting at the lower end of the top 50 or even a couple of pages in, and starting your research here. For example, you could ask yourself, hey, what is GMX, right? GMX is sitting at $500 million market cap. For it to go to a 5 billion, if it's a solid project, is a solid 10x, right? But could it be more, right? IoTeX, not even 500 billion. Solid project, maybe, who knows? This is your research duty right now to find those market caps. But there is always the risk of losing everything, because these projects, they can die, they can get rug pulled, and there can be terrible stuff happening with it, like with Terra Luna, which was, by the way, a top 50 coin, and still everything went to zero. So there are good projects in that, but even here you could say, hey, I have a little bit of Bitcoin, maybe I have a little bit of Ethereum, I have a little bit of, let's say, IoTeX, GMX, the Graph, Arweave, of the bigger market caps. But what about coins that have not really reached these market caps where we are right now, sitting in the end of a bear market in a beginning bull phase, and we're looking to acquire stuff like that, right? We're not talking about a Moonbeam, we're not talking about an IoTeX, but stuff like Metacade, for example. And this doesn't, let's put this in night mode, by the way. Let's not use this as a financial recommendation, because it's not. It's just an example. Metacade is, in the right narrative, a gaming coin. It hasn't pumped yet. It is very, very small, so it still needs to get attention. It is on almost no exchanges, but you can already buy it on centralized exchanges like BitGet and Bitmart. By the way, be careful there. With exchanges can always go away, have false economy or so, wash trading, yada yada. So it's always a risk to have your coins on exchanges, but enough with that. So the most important thing, in my opinion, here is to look at a couple of things. First of all, what are they doing? So if you're going to CoinMarketCap, you can look at the website, you can check out the white paper, you can check out social media. So you want to see that the Twitter is active, the website looks good, the white paper tells you stuff that it is good, and you want to see that a lot of coins are already in circulation. So according to this, 66% is circulation. According to the Metacade team, there's more than that in circulation. The important thing is that the fully diluted market cap is also low. Not only the one that it is calculated by the circulating supply. So here we have a $26 million market cap. Let's assume that Metacade is a good project with a strong narrative and has not pumped yet. $26 million market cap means that if it wants to go and no other coin moves, it wants to go on in the top 200, it would be doing a 10 to 15x to come in this range of $300 million market cap, right? Because it's a 10x would be $260 million market cap, and let's say it's a really good project, and in a bull market it can do another 10x from there. It would be 100x from where we are right now if it reaches something like $2.6 billion, which would put it, if we look at the coin, Lifecoin Watch, would put it somewhere at the size of VeChain, Casper, and so on. Obviously, these coins would also do a 5, 7, 10x and would not be in this size anymore in a bull run, but it would put it in the lower top 50 right now if it did 100x. But if it does 100x and the entire market does a 10x, it wouldn't even reach the top 50 with that. So it is safe to assume that such low coins yield high risk but also high returns. And now the big question is, as a shrimp, can you afford to lose your shrimp money? That is the most important question that you have to ask yourself. Can you, in this endeavor to reach something like a $2.6 billion market cap with a Metacade, can you risk your $100 and live with it if it goes to zero? So overall, you have to see that the risk that we are looking at is you lose 100, but you could gain 100x on the 100. That is whereas here in these top 50, the risk of losing the 100 is lower, but also the upside is not as high. So the risk reward ratio becomes very clear in these examples. Let's say you buy VeChain right now without a pullback, and VeChain goes to 20 cents. That's not even a 10x from where we are right now, right? So the people that bought VeChain in the bear market at 1.5 cent, they are already up double. So for them, an 8x from here is a 16x on the coin in total, right? So you have to see that your loss side doesn't change, but the upside changes the lower you go in the market caps. And there are good coins with good narratives. You do not have to go as low as a Metacade, because if you put in Metacade on Livecoin Watch, it is on place 15,000. But what you can do is you go to some of these pages with around $100 million market cap or $200 million market cap and look for what are they doing? Are they playing in the correct narrative? How much is in circulating supply? Is the team doxed? Do they have nice social media like Twitter, which is the most important thing in my opinion in social media? And are they posting every day? Because it is very important that they have something to talk about every day, right? So there are coins. What does an Energy Web token do, for example? Is it a good project? Like, how did it do before? Did it get rug pulled? Is it already dead? And stuff like that. You get where I'm going with this, right? And most of you are educated in that sense. So probably you already knew stuff of that. But looking at something like this, I am confident to say that if I see this formation here and I look at all the good things that a Metacade has, I have done a video on Metacade. If you didn't see it, then check it out. Then I can say that yes, that is something where I would sprinkle $100 or $200 in it, and if I lose it, so what, right? For me, so what? But this is the most important thing to take away. You cannot look at 100x gains with a high risk of failure and put money in that you need tomorrow to eat and breathe. So overall, it comes down to your personal risk preference as a shrimp. But if you enter the crypto market, and you have seen it on the thumbnail, if you enter the crypto market, there are whales that wait to catch you. So you need to do your due diligence, you need to do your research, because otherwise you get eaten by a big fat whale shark. And that is not what we want. We want to come out on top, to grow from a shrimp into a little bit of a bigger fish. I know that this is not very accurate in terms of biology, and also probably from a standpoint of intellectuality, that is not the best thing, but it is what it is in crypto. So whales are trying to fear you out of your investments or of your gambling if you want. They are trying to get your coins cheap. They are trying to lure you into buying stuff that has already pumped, like for example a Solana. And I don't say that Solana cannot go to $500, but from $100 to $500 on Solana is a 5x. And if you can live with the 5x, a 5x is pretty good on $1 million, but on $1, a 5x is not really good, right? So overall, if you are maneuvering in this market, be aware of this risk, but also be aware of the potential where it could go. I know this is a very long video, and if you are bored by it, then I can't help you. But if you are not bored by it, then make sure to smash up the like button, subscribe to the channel, tick the little bell to always get notified whenever I upload my next video. Don't be a shrimp. Let's all grow a little bit in this plankton world, and wherever you are on the world, have such great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon, and I see you in the next video.